All right, welcome back, brave ones. And today we're talking with Jessica Donnell. This woman is a powerhouse. Honestly, she is a writer. She works multiple jobs. She has three kids, two of which she birthed. And we're going to talk about her birth stories with those two kids, as well as raising kids with special needs, which I don't think I've mentioned on this podcast. I was an aide for special needs for a while, so that has a special place in my heart, and I'm really excited to hear about that. A proper old school California girl, raised in North California, where all the real people are. We love North
That's right.
California, and she wrote Bucket List from a Redneck Girl. We're gonna talk about that later, but she's just this woman does it all. So Jessica, I go ahead and take it over. Thank you and I'd love to hear your stories.
Thank you for having me on. You're so sweet. Yeah, all the real Californians, the good ones come from Northern California. Yeah, so I was raised in a small farming town in like an hour north, 45 minutes north of Sacramento. And I wrote this book about my crazy life after COVID. I had time. During COVID, I actually got my master's degree. And then after that, I was like, I have time. And all of a sudden, I just thought, my kids, they don't they don't know anything about their mom at all. And I'm sure they don't even care about their mom at all in that way. They want to know what's for dinner, are my socks clean, and did you pack my lunch? They want to know all those things. But when they get older, or when I'm gone, they're probably going to want to know a little bit more about me, what was my life like. When they get older and they want to know about their own roots, they may want to know a little bit about me. And so I decided to write a book for them, and it talks about all kinds of crazy things that have happened in my life, and two of which were my birth stories for both my kids. It's funny because it's not a highlighted thing that I talk about on most podcasts, but I don't know why, because they are actually the craziest two stories that I have in my book too, that I think they're nutso. And so let's share them because, yeah, a lot of times nervous moms, they don't know what to expect. And if they hear a story like mine, they're like, dang, I'm gonna have it easy compared to that. So hopefully
For
that's
sure.
the outcome here.
Like as we go in for the new moms who are listening to this, because I do usually have a little Surgeon General's warning for my first time moms. Like, if this isn't a perfectly positive birth story, that does not mean it's gonna happen to you. And that's
Not
okay.
terrible in that way. It's not terrible in that way. It's like outer things screwed up. It's like my family and friends and everybody in my life could not get out of their way to let me have a freaking anything in my life. It's just nuts.
Oh my
Okay, yeah.
gosh.
So it's not like it's torture. The second birth was torture. The first one, he came out lickety split. So a lot of times, each child, not only are they different kids, but when they are conceived and when they are born, are totally different. And so my husband and I, we met in 1997. My stepdaughter was 3, almost 4. And we dated for 3 years. And then we found out or we bought a house. It's funny. We bought a house. And then my husband, who did not propose to me, just took me over to the Fred Meyer's counter at the mall and sat down and goes, let's look at rings. And they happened to be wedding rings. And he's like, yeah, we'll take that one and that one. And he's like, look, there you go. And he didn't say, will you marry me? He just said, we're like engaged. There we go. Like, I guess the engagement was him signing the receipt. I don't know. It was
Oh
insane.
my,
So
what a
we had a house already. We got engaged. I'm wearing a ring. It's got 2 carats on it. I guess that's an engagement ring. And he put it on the ring finger. But he never said, will you marry me? I guess that was just implied. I don't know. That's just how my husband is. And it's like he'll bring home flowers for like the special days, like birthdays or Mother's Day, but he won't say Happy Mother's Day or Happy Birthday. He'll just be like they're there. Like that's it. Like that's what you get. You get them there. That's it. Like I don't know. He's just not a romantic guy.
is he a farmer or agriculture kind of guy?
No, no, he's actually a physical therapist. He just was not raised by somebody that was like hugging and kissing and loving and stuff. And so that was one thing. Knowing that about him was one thing that it's like not something I settled, but something I understood. And I was like, okay with, I'm like, fine. Like, he wasn't like that Prince Charming. He wasn't charming in like that, in that sense, but he had a lot of great qualities that, like, okay, so I'll tell you the reason why I thought I'm going to marry this man. The first moment I said, barely knew him. And I met him in a nightclub because I was a cocktail server and he was the bartender. And we didn't work together because the nightclub is in Palm Springs. It's super big. It's got like two different nightclub sides, and we worked far away from one another. But at the end of the night, you kind of sit near the bartenders that are funny and we'll give you a drink after work. And you sit there counting your money and everything. And I said, we're all going to go to Denny's and get some breakfast afterwards. Do you want to come? And he's like, he goes, no. He goes, I got to go pick up my daughter, and she's more important than any of you yahoos. And he looked around. My husband's a very funny dude,
Oh.
but he was basically saying like nothing comes before my kid. And in that
Mhm.
moment, I knew I said, I'm gonna marry this man. Just knew it in my mind. I just said, that's the man I want to be with. Isn't that weird? But he was the one that
Yeah.
told me he had a crush on me first. So that was good. How it all kind of transpired was he eventually later told me he had a crush on me. Anyways, I tell it all in the story. It's like this love story in my book. It's a very good love story, and it's a coming of age book because I talk about when you're little and how you feel. And I had a bum eye, so I was called Popeye when I was little. So I didn't feel pretty, and I grew up that way, not feeling pretty, and felt fat when I was a size 3. Like, what the hell? You feel like you're fat when you're like this tiny little thing. Now I wish I was as fat as I thought I was back then. I'm like, whatever. Anywho, but I just knew I was going to marry that man, and he had a daughter, and he had an ex-girlfriend. They never were married, but she was crazy, and she was crazy. In fact, in my book, I call her bio mom because I can't call her by name, and I don't want to be nice about her because she made my life miserable until the child was 18 years old. I'm like, thank God she's 33 now, so I don't have to deal with it. My life is like so much better. But I had to be the stepmom, nice to her, nice, loving to the daughter because I loved her like she's my own. Obviously, I loved her from the second I met her. She's so cute and sweet. And we have a good relationship. And she would call me mom. I like, you can call me anything you want, just don't call me bad names. That's what I would tell her. I was like, but it didn't make her mom feel good. Hold on. Sorry about that. I've been talking all day. And her mom hated me because I gave Jordan her a princess room and I gave her all the things that she would want. I was a good time weekend mom, and same with my husband. We'd take her to Disneyland and all the things because that's what you do when you're a weekend dad. We had her 35% of the time, so like 3 weekends a month. And we lived far away. We lived in Palm Springs and she was in LA, or she was in Long Beach, and so it's a 4-hour drive through traffic just to go pick her up one way and then 4 hours back. So it was really difficult, but we mustered through for many, many years. And I went in. Okay, so I got pregnant, and then the mother got even crazier and like weird things. She was doing weird things, and she knew when my due date was. And I'm a Virgo, so I'm always on time. Let's just get it out there. I was gonna have this baby on my due date, but we had a court date, and my husband like tried really hard. Even the attorney tried to get them to reschedule that this is my due date, even with anywhere within the week. Like he's either going to deliver or maybe a few days later, maybe a few days before. But within this week, we just not do it? She wouldn't do it. The attorney says, no, we've had this in the books for a long time and da 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 da. And
Like it takes 9 months.
I know.
That's so
Yeah,
wild. That's so bizarre.
right. And so we said, hey, listen, this is her due date, her actual due date. She's due that day. No, no, no. So we get down to Long Beach, okay, and we couldn't find a hotel anywhere. It was like Mary trying to find a place to, it was just
Oh,
I couldn't
no.
find no room at the end. There was nowhere. So we ended up do find this one place, the Motel 6, and it was like set in like the 50s or 60s. It had pink carpet, pink tile in the bathroom. It had worn on the floor, like where the door opens, and the carpet was worn right there. And to get into the bathroom, when I was 9 months pregnant, I had to open the door, walk in, shut the door just so I could sit down on the toilet. And that night, it was hard to get to sleep, but we did. Little did I know that I went into labor because I didn't know. I thought I just had to pee all night. So every 10 minutes, I would get up to go pee, I thought. And I was like, well, nothing's coming out, but I feel like I have to pee.
Oh no.
So,
I knew the moment you said 1950s, I was like, somehow that just screams baby in a hotel.
so I'm getting up all night long. Had I known that I was in labor, I would have woke up my husband and say, you suffer with me. No, right? But I was getting up
Mhm.
quietly, opening the door, shutting the door, sitting down, nothing coming out. And I was like, fuck, I had to pee. And so then I'd get up, put everything back on, and then get out, shut the door, go lay down. 5 minutes later, I have to pee. And I get up and what? Why? Why am I peeing so much? And I'd try to fall back asleep. And then I'm like, oh, I got to pee all night long. So then in the morning, I get up and you could tell I'm just exhausted, like super tired. And
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, I'm having cramps or something. I didn't know. And I go, what if I go into labor? And I'm like laughing. We're laughing about it. Ha ha, ha, that's so funny. Like, what if I go to labor? And so we pack up, we had a Montero. So we get into the Montero and we drive to the courthouse and we open the door. The moment I open the door and I put my leg down, I had a freaking contraction. I knew what it was. It was like, whoa, that is not good. Like, this is what it feels like to have everything else just felt like I had to pee, like pressure, like potty feeling. This felt like, whoa, like that baby's doing something. And my husband he looks over as I'm trying to get out of the car and he goes, was that a contraction? And I look over and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't, my first one. So I have no clue. And so he goes,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
my God. And he comes around, he's like helping me out of the car. And he's like, you going into labor? And I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, it seems like you've been going like every 5 minutes. And I'm like, but this was like the first one that was like a big one. And
Mhm.
we counted like every 5 minutes. I was breathing heavy like they do on TV. And I was like, trying to breathe. And, and it was like 7:30 and all of a sudden we were in the Long Beach courthouse and I'm sweating. I'm like hot. And this lady across the hall, she was sitting at her desk and she kind of looked out the door and she's like, are you in labor? Like, and I go, I don't know. She goes, come in here and sit in front of my fan. And so she put the fan on me and she's like, oh my God, I'm going to call 911. I go, no, 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 no. I'm not having this baby in Long Beach, California. I'm not doing it. I go, I will not have this baby in this dang town where this mother is. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And the other thing is, my sister in law is she's a birthing nurse at Eisenhower
Oh my
in Palm
God.
Springs. And I wanted her to pluck this baby out of me. Okay. I didn't
Mhm.
want some Long Beach nurse. I wanted my sister in law to help me deliver my child. And so, and all the experience, I went to every appointment. I didn't gain too much weight. I actually worked all the way up until like the last few weeks of before I was supposed to deliver. I was a liquor distributor, so I was like a Bacardi vendor, like somebody that would go sell Bacardi at like the supermarkets. Like I'd go in, I go, you need some more cases. And I go, you need to order some more cases. And they'd go, okay, I'll order them. I was like, okay. That's what I did for a living.
That's good money.
It was good money and it was fun. Later, I ended up working at the hotels and restaurants where I would go in and say, you want me to order you some more Bacardi? And they'd be like, okay. And then I'd order it for them and then I would make commission. But I made commission even if they ordered it themselves. But you go into some gay bars and the gay bars are funner because they're just fun. And I had such a great time. Country clubs they're snooty. They're kind of like uppity, but it still was a fun job. But anyways, so yeah, so we were at Long Beach courthouse. The ladies put me in front of her fan, and my husband goes over to the attorney and says, can we please get a continuance because Jessica, I think, is in labor." And they were like, "No, she's," because I was standing, talking, laughing, like it wasn't any big deal.
Mhm.
And I was having like, "Oh, that's a contraction, I think," and then I'd go, anyways, yeah. So, and I would talk just like that, like it was no big deal. Like I'd have a cramp, and then I'd be like, okay. And this first one was like, no big deal. And so I called my mom, and my mom's like, oh my God, Jessica, go to the hospital. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And she goes, okay, I'll call your sister who lived in Newport at the time. And my mom said, I'll tell her to come pick you up and drive you back to Palm Springs. And Doug will have to join you because he'll have the Montero. He'll be able to follow after everything's over. And so my sister couldn't get there till like 11:30. So for many hours, I was in the Long Beach courthouse in labor, walking, pacing, sitting there uncomfortable. I couldn't sit down like on the benches because it hurt my back and my butt. And I was just like, I'm better if I'm standing. Like sitting down on those hard benches, it was terrible. And then I made the lady across the hall nervous. She's like, "Oh my God, sit down, sit in this chair, stop it." And so then my sister came to pick me up, and on the way home, on the way to Palm Springs, She made me laugh so hard. I'm like, stop it. You're going to make me pee in your freaking car. Like, you don't understand. Quit making me laugh because every time I have a contraction, I'd hold on to the oh shit handle. And I'm like, and she start laughing. And she's like, I'm sorry, I can't stop it. It's so funny. Or we were singing and she goes, why do you keep singing in that high voice? And I don't know. And we just have fun girl banter back and forth. And so we get to the hospital. My sister-in-law, she says, like not believing that I was probably even close to being admitted because they don't admit you until you're like 3 centimeters. They'll check you and they're like, no, come back later, go walk, whatever. But no, she's like, no, you're 3. Let's go. Here, good to go. And then they gave me a room right away. Now, my experience when my good friend Janelle, she was in the military and they made her be like past 3 centimeters. They made her walk around the hospital and everywhere until they let her in. And it was like, they were strict. They were, but this hospital's like
Mhm.
three. 3 is the number. You get a room. Ding, ding, ding. And so I got a room, and by the time they get you in and get you with your wrist and your everything, she says, "Okay, we can get you an epidural now." And they gave me an epidural, and that was wonderful. And I did it with an epidural because that's what you do when you think you don't want the pain. You accept that. The other child, not so lucky. But this one, I did it that way, but it did make it harder to push. When I
Mhm.
was pushing, I felt like I couldn't push anymore, and my sister in law's like, "Yeah, but Jessica, you push." It's like she was really getting me. And that kid, Doug showed up 20 minutes. I was pushing. He showed up. No, he showed up right as I'm about to start to push. Because I swear, this kid, once I started pushing, he was slipping right out. He was small. He was 6 pounds, 14 ounces or something, 19 inches long or something. He was a tiny little guy. And but as soon as I started to push, it seemed like no big deal. He just popped right out, and everything was good. The whole experience was quick and fast. My husband was there. My sister said, "This is the best form of birth control ever." She says, "I'm never having babies." Of course, she had 3 now. And this is before she got married and had 3 babies of her own. At the time, I think this was 2000. She was still in college. Like she was probably 19 or 20. He's like,
Okay.
this is the best form of birth control ever. She goes, I'm never having kids. And then she has 3 of her own. It's so funny. So then we're all hanging around. My mom and dad show up late, of course, because my dad had to stop for snacks at 7-Eleven and took too long. And my mom will never let him live it down because she wasn't there for the birth. She missed it by 15 minutes because he took too long at 7-Eleven. Because she says, your sister just had to get a soda or whatever. So they missed it. And so we're all sitting around in the hospital room and I'm chugging down I don't know, hamburger or something. I was starved because I didn't eat all day. You know,
That postpartum hanger, it hits so fast. Like you can
yeah.
suddenly you could eat a galaxy. I don't care if it's like the tiniest. It doesn't matter. It's like
I'm like, and I was gonna breastfeed. So you're hungry. Your body is starving for the food. And I didn't eat all day because we got to the courthouse early. I think maybe I wasn't drinking coffee because I was pregnant. I didn't do caffeine or any of that stuff. I was being very good. I'm always very good when I'm pregnant. I take my vitamins. I don't drink caffeine or cokes or sodas or anything. And I love my coffee. Let me just say. But ever we're sitting around the room, and my sister goes. She's holding on to Parker, my son, and she says, "He's not breathing." And she goes, "Here, mom, you take him." And my mom was
oh no.
like, she's like, Parker, Parker. And she's like rubbing his stomach. And she puts him over. She's like, Parker, Parker. And then he starts crying. And then we told the nurse, and the nurse took him away. And so immediately they put him in the NIC unit. There's one thing. He was jaundice. He was yellow. 2, we found out had sleep apnea. So he needed to have a heart monitor around his chest for first 6 months of his life. And come over the course of 6 months, he had 9 bouts, I think, 9 bouts of where he would stop breathing. And had he not had the alarm on, he would have passed away.
My
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. So that was the first one. Parker does have Asperger's and has depressive disorders and some other problems. And it was like he was my first one with like issues. My stepdaughter has attention deficit and depressive disorders, but And we had to go to her IEP meetings a lot and stuff, but I didn't have her day to day, and it was just different. We had a good time. We were good time parents and stuff. We had a great relationship, still do. But with my kid navigating through that, it was all changed, all different. The age difference between each kid is 8 years. 8 years,
Oh,
8 years,
wow.
8 years.
So
I was
before we move on to that second birth, I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Then, like first off, like how was it coming off that epidural? Because I actually don't know a lot of epidural stories. So like, what is the postpartum experience? Do you remember any details that stood out?
Think that there was anything negative that I could give you that I felt any pain or anything in that way. Because when you're pregnant, your back hurts anyways. And so this just makes you feel like you don't have any pain whatsoever.
Yes.
Maybe you need that pain to feel it for pushing and stuff like that. I don't know. And it did made it harder to push because I felt like I was pushing as hard as I can. And she's like, no, dude, you're not pushing hard enough. I was like, okay, I'm trying. Don't yell at me. And so my sister was actually the one that you could see her. Someone took a picture. I don't know why, but not, you couldn't see me, but saw Parker in her hands. So she pulled Parker out, and which is awesome. I wish she would have done my second one, because had she been there, I would have had an ally. I felt like it was everybody against me. It was terrible. But so the first experience, lovely. I don't feel anything, nothing with epidural, nothing, no
Nothing
problems.
felt shocking or different, or even
Mm-mm.
I like sometimes women get this like euphoria. I will say I haven't heard it happen as much with an epidural. I haven't been to an epidural birth yet either. I am a doula, but I've only attended natural births, like not out of any, just that's just how the cards have played. So I've just always been curious. I'm like, I wonder what because like all of my births were natural. So I definitely feel like the postpartum high is there that kind of keeps that crash from hitting for a few hours. But I wasn't sure.
I don't know. I don't. It's weird because I wasn't. It's weird because I think maybe the epidural gave me a positive, actually, effect of it all, because I remember and maybe he was my firstborn. It was a lot longer ago, but the horror. No offense, I don't want to scare anybody, but what happened during my birthing experience of my second has lived with me longer because it was natural ish. We'll get to why that's an ish. But the first one just seemed like it was no easy peasy, came out lickety split. He had some problems, but not from me giving birth to him. I think
Let's
what I
see.
did to my second kid, I think is what I did. I think I hurt her. So my second daughter, my second kid, my daughter, Piper. I was sick, green. Don't know why. Constantly feeling feverish, didn't feel good at all. And my husband works at a hospital, and he said, you need to go get checked out because the swine flu, this was back in 2009 or whatever, the swine flu is going around, and I could have gotten you sick. And he goes, he goes, you need to go get checked out just in case because you look green. Like, you look green. So I went to the doctor. The doctor said, you're pregnant. And so I met him, but I owned a preschool at the time, and I met him at my school and in front of all my teachers. He goes, man, he goes, I don't feel good. I think I have what you have. And he said, don't tell me you have the swine flu. And I looked at him and I said, you're sick? And he goes, yeah. And I said, when are you due? Because I'm due in 9 months.
Oh
He's
my
like,
god,
what?
that's well, and that's I'm curious. Like that's a career jump. You went from like selling Bacardi to owning a preschool. What happened?
I know I own one of the largest preschools in Bakersfield. It's actually still the largest preschool in Bakersfield. I just don't own it anymore. Okay, so I started a preschool for my living room. I built it up, word of mouth. I was bombarded with people. I had just so many people. So then we built onto the house. I hired a few teachers and I had more kids. Then I bought a preschool at a church. And so I ran both the church and the house at the same time. I had 42 kids at one and 14 to 20 on the other. And I had like 8 teachers. And I was doing really good. And then I had a neighbor who came over. I was used to watch his kid. He goes, I have a commercial property that I think a preschool would go great on. He goes, I'll build you the shell for 4.2 million. He goes, it'll be mine, but you can build out the inside and the preschool play yard, which was a 30,000 foot play yard and a 10,000 square foot building. And so I was like, let me ask my husband. So then I asked my husband, I go, I think I can do this. And I go, I have to put a business plan together to see how it would work. And if I can get the business plan to to balance and show that we can make money, I can probably get a loan. And so I went online and I Googled how to do a business plan because I didn't know. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I had a 2.5-year-old. And this is when Parker was about 2.5, 3 years old when we moved to Bakersfield from Palm Springs. And I got a loan from the SBA for $700,000. And my school looked like a magazine. Like, it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. This is why everybody always wanted to, they offer me money for it all the time. But when my daughter was born, and I'll get to that, I ended up selling it, and I'll tell you why. But let's get to the part. So I tell my husband I'm pregnant. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. It's crazy. I can't believe I'm 36 years old. Okay, I'm older. I think I was 36, and now I'm pregnant. And he is 9 years older than me. So he's really feeling like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So the whole pregnancy was harder on me. I didn't feel good the whole time. I don't know why. I went to all my appointments. I was gaining weight at the end. She didn't come on her due date. She was going to be bigger. She ended up being like 8 pounds, almost 9 pounds, and she was huge. A big girl. She was big, and then she was like 21 inches long. She was just like big freaking baby, heavy. And so she wasn't coming out. So they said, "Okay, go to the hospital, and I'll tell them to induce you." Went to the hospital, no room. So the day I thought I was, then they said, "Come back on Monday," because that was a Friday. I was like, okay. So I went back on Monday and they said, "Okay, we'll give you a room and induce you. And this will take some time." And so Tocin is what they give. And they start to induce. And she didn't want to come. She just it took 24 hours before anything started to really happen. I'm just sitting there waiting. And I started to dilate, and the nurses miscalculated my dilation, or I dilated so quickly. They just during some certain point where they said, "Oh, it's too far. You can't have an epidural now." And an epidural was my plan. Like, that was what I was doing. I was there early enough.
Because plan in your mind, you knew what you wanted, and they're like,
yeah.
"Oh," I'm sure they give you the nurse look of, "Honey, I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
And it's like, "No,
they
don't
go,
be sorry."
I wasn't planning on doing this al natural. You don't know if I can handle the pain. I don't think I can. I was kind of pissed. And so then they said, "We can give you like a shot in your back or something, like some sort of something." I don't know what it was. God, that's so terrible that I don't know, but
Other pain relief
it's like a
options. I
pain.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like a shot and it helped. But when that was wearing off, and then when it came time for pushing, they said, "All right." And my doctor wasn't my doctor. It wasn't the doctor that I saw every week, or it wasn't the doctor that I thought was going to help me deliver, that I trusted. It was some on-call doctor. I got some Yahoo.
Well, how did that
some dude.
Random person walk in?
Yeah, I got some guy going to look at my hoo-ha. I didn't want that. And I didn't trust him or know him. I didn't have my sister there because here I am. I'm in Bakersfield now. She lives in Palm Springs. And they didn't want to come, and she wasn't a part of. She doesn't have privileges there, and so it just don't.
Relations.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, my parents were there and everything, and I guess you don't think about it. Like, I've got my hoo-ha out. My dad's right there, like, watching the whole show, and I wasn't paying attention because I was pushing for so long. Now,
really don't notice. Like, it's not the same. Like, mentally, you're only thinking about, how do I get this baby out of me?
yes, right? You don't care. They could be freaking having popcorn in the corner and you would not even notice. Like, it was like,
yeah.
You do defecate when you're pushing this hard. You don't know, but they don't tell you because they swipe it away, and like that was never there. You're like, and no one tells me until after. I didn't know until years later. Like, "Yes, Jessica, you did for sure." And I'm like, "No, because
you shouldn't have known." So they did their job.
Yeah, right. Okay, so here's what's happening. My legs were in the air. Not to get a bit too graphic, but my legs were like, my husband was holding one leg. My mom was holding the other leg up. Two nurses I was holding on to towels, and two nurses were playing tug of war with both of my hands, pulling me forward, and my husband and my mom were pulling my legs back. And I was like that for 3 hours. Yeah. And I would be like,
help you change position or give you any kind of relief.
No, I would say I would after a while, they're like, if something was going on with the baby, they moved me over to the side, and then like, okay, let's try it again. And I was playing tug of war, or the nurses were holding my legs up, and I was playing tug of war with my husband, and they were holding onto towels, and they were yanking me forward, and I was pulling myself back, trying to push for 3 hours. Well, first of all, every time the doctor comes in, I'm like, she's not coming out. And the nurse was doing this with her finger around the head, trying to do this a lot, trying to get the baby out. Couldn't get the baby. The head was right there. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Every time the doctor would come in, he'd go put on his gloves and he's like, she can go 20 more minutes. And so then after 20 minutes, I would say, Mom, tell him 20 minutes is up. Tell him 20 minutes is up. And then they would put oxygen on me because I wasn't getting enough oxygen because I was like so weak.
Which is already physiologically a horrible position to birth in. And 3.5 hours, that's too long.
Yeah.
There's no nice way to put it. Like
yeah, it was torture. He came in at least 3 times and said 20 more minutes during the 3.5 hours. Finally, I couldn't even hold on to the side rails. I was like, my hands were like limp, and I couldn't even hold myself up, and I was like, couldn't breathe, and I was like having the mask on, and I took the mask off, and I go, tell the doctor to come in right now. And the doctor, she goes, he was said not to disturb him, not because he's sleeping, and not to disturb the doctor. And I looked at my mom. I looked at my mom and I said, Mom, get the doctor in here right now. I can't deliver this baby. And my mom goes, I'm sorry, but you need to wake him up right now. He needs to come in. My mom was not shut up until that lady walked over and got that damn doctor. So he came in, and you could see her little head was right, and she was doing this. And finally, he put on his gloves. I could hear the plastic or the rubber. Mm-hmm. And he looks over and she goes, she could do 20 more minutes. And I pulled myself up on the bed like this. And I stood up and I go, you get this effing baby. And I said the F word out of my fucking crotch right now. I go, I need a C-section. Like, so because he wasn't listening. And so he takes off his gloves, throws them at my hoo-ha and says, fine, prep her for surgery. I'm not kidding. Yeah. And I was like, good, I don't care. Fuss at me all you want. And so then they cart me through the hall. Now this is terrible, but they cart me down the hallway with my self-exposed to everybody down the hall, some guy with his wife and the nurses and whoever. I'm like, can a girl get a sheet? Like, Jesus. Like, I just felt exposed. In that moment, I just felt like I was on display. So then they bring me into the operating room, and they make you sit on. Now you're a big fat fatty because you're pregnant, and you have to sit on this tiny little skinny table, and your butt cheeks barely cover it. And I'm sitting up there, and then they give me an epidural because that's what they do when they give you a C-section. That's how because you're supposed to stay awake for it. So they epidural you. And I was like, oh my God, this feels so good. I just remember that it felt like a relief. And so then they drape a thing over the top of you so you can't see what they're doing. And you're laying down, of course. And my husband says he couldn't be in the room. He's like, I can't do it. I'm like, you work in a hospital, dude. Like, you could do this. And he's like, no, I can't. So my mom's like, can I? And so my husband's like, yeah, go for it, Mom. And so my mom was in the room with me. And of course, I mask everything with humor, and I'm nervous and I'm cold and I'm shivering a little bit. And there are some voices, doctor voices or whatever. And I go, yeah, this darn baby, that stupid doctor made me push for 3 hours. I said, I couldn't do it. And the doctor goes, yeah, that was me. That was the doctor delivering. I didn't know. He goes, yeah, that was me. Like, I'm calling him an asshole. And he's like, yeah, that's me. I'm about to pull the baby out of you, dum-dum. But he didn't say that. But you know what? I was so stupid. Like, the guy was right there cutting me open. And I'm talking crap to him. And he pulls out the baby and he said, yeah, she wasn't going to come out that way. Her head was too big. And I was like, you dick. And so then my mom goes, oh, Jessica, she's so pretty. She's so beautiful. And I did have really pretty babies. They're all very cute as babies. And but she wasn't making a sound. And she took the baby over to the side, and I'm like, why isn't she saying, why is she screaming or crying or what's going on? What's going on? And I'm nervous. My blood pressure's going up and everything. And my mom's like, don't worry, Jessica, she's fine. They're just cleaning her out right now, which they weren't. They were trying to get her to breathe. And you heard her cry, and they gave her an Apgard of 7 or 7 point whatever it was. It wasn't too bad, not too great, whatever. And then, so then they said, we'd like to take her out. Is that okay? So we can get her cleaned up. And I said, okay. And my mom's like, yeah, that's fine. But they needed to whisk her away, but they didn't want to say anything to me because they didn't want to alarm me. And so then I started to shiver and I'm cold. And my mom's like, are you okay, Jessica? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm just shivering. And my mom goes, can I go out and see her? Can I go out and see her? And I go, make sure they take tons of pictures, Mom. I gave her my camera, make sure they take tons of pictures because I'm a photographer too. That's something else I've done in my life as a licensed photographer for a little while. So I'm like, take tons of pictures. And so then next thing I know, I thought that I was out. They must have put me out to sew me up or to shut me up. I don't really know, one or the other. And next thing I know, I'm in recovery. And so then my husband and my mom come in and they were like concerned a little bit. And they looked at me and they're like, she's so pretty. And we took tons of pictures, Jessica, lots of pictures, lots of black and whites. You're going to love it. And they're going to take her to the NIC unit. She's a little jaundiced like Parker was. And they were just trying to say things like that I might understand. And then the doctor comes in, the NIC doctor, and he was concerned and he said, I'm taking her to get a CAT scan because when my daughter was born, okay, she had, I would say, quarter size lumps behind her ears, both of them. Huge black bruising and purple bruises from being stuck in the canal. And her head, of course, was kind of coned a little bit. And on top, she had a very deep red hematoma and bloody fingernail marks all over the top of her head. And the doctor thought she was dropped on the floor, like she was naturally born and dropped on the floor. And they said she wasn't dropped on the floor, that she was a C-section, but that she was stuck for many hours. And so he says, I need to send her up for a CAT scan because he thought that her head looked like a tumor, like she was going to die. Like he thought, no, this girl is not going to survive. And they also had to put a tube down her throat to get her some more oxygen because her oxygen levels were below 90. Like they were low, way below 90. Like,
and the stress that poor baby probably was under is
right. So the test came back that it was just bruising from birth. It was trauma from the birth and it all looked good. She got it. They were all saying she's fine. But she had to stay in the NIC unit because they couldn't get her oxygen level up at all, no matter what they tried. And she also was under the lights a little bit. She had to be under the lights just a little. And so for the whole week, both my kids spent the first week of their life. I didn't know what it was like to bring a kid home. And I just gave birth and like yesterday, and here's my kid. No, both of them spent a week in the NIC unit. And so it was time to get the doctors doing the rounds. It was going to come around and like let her go. Me and my husband were like, yes, she gets to go home. And we're both there. He was working in that hospital. So he got to be off and be around all the time. And they let me stay in one of the rooms under the guise that I had high blood pressure so that I could stay there with her and breastfeed her and be there every day. So the last day we're thinking we're going home and the doctor comes around. And he's like, he listens to the heart. He goes, nurse, did you hear that heart murmur on Piper? And the nurse looks at him like, duh, stupid. Like, hello, where's her nurses? We hear it every day. And she's like, yeah, it's in the chart that it's a heart murmur. And he goes, she has to go get an echocardiogram. We need to have her looked at, get one of those, and before we'll release her. And we're like, okay. So he goes, just one more day. Tomorrow we'll get the results and we'll come back and we'll meet. So he wanted to meet us. He gave us a time the next day and we met up with him and he sits down. And I was going to tell my mom, like, Mom, I'll call you when it's over and I'll tell you what's going on. Okay. Like, I think she'll be fine, but I'll let you when we're on our way home. And so I had my phone with me and the doctor said, sits us down and he says, I know you're going to want to look this up. He goes, but don't. It's only going to scare you. Like what you're going to find online is going to scare you. But let me tell you, he says, your daughter has what's called tetralogy of Fallot. And I go, hold on. I dial. Mom, look up tetralogy of Fallot. How do you spell it? Fallo. Fallo. Look it up, Mom. And she goes, Jessica. And I said, okay, Mom, I'll call you back. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like if my mom is reading it. And like I didn't want to hear what he had to say. I wanted to hear my mom read it. Like she was, oh my God, it's Jessica. And then I go, okay, I'll call you right back. And so then he's telling me and he's drawing the picture and we're all like, like not really taking it in. And he said, she's going to need most likely open heart surgery. And they do it generally around 5 or 6 months of age when they're a little bit stronger. because right now she's too small and weak. And he goes, we're going to have to set you up with a doctor and in LA at the UCLA, and they'll tell you what the next steps are. So I called that doctor that day, the doctor that he gave me, and the doctor says, I can get you in tomorrow. Can you make it? Here I am. They're just going to release her. I just had a C-section, and I'm going to have to go to LA, which is a 2.5 hour drive to go see this doctor. So my mom drove me, and we both went, and we had all kinds of questions. And he said, yeah, she's going to need, he saw the echo and everything. And he said, she needs open heart surgery, but you have to be careful because if you put her in the hands of somebody else, she could die. You give her to daycare, she could die. You need to be very vigilant, pay attention to her, watch her feedings. Because one of the things happens with these children is they fall asleep when they are feeding because they just stop breathing, and you have to wake them. You have to wake them up. Yeah, their heart just goes boom, 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 boom. And so you have to kind of jostle them and get them going. And they don't feed very well, so they're very puny. So that is why I sold my school, because one, the economy at that time during 2010 in America was not great. Everybody was losing their jobs. I had people like not needing daycare because grandma is out of work now or dad's out of work now. And so I went from having at a high 188 students to 88 students. It was $1 million school and it was making no money. I was taking out no money for almost a year at that point. And it was thriving. Everybody was thriving but me. And so now I have a master's degree and I have a little bit of knowledge. Had I known what I know now about business, I probably would have took different steps to save my business. But at the time, I was looking at it like this: my business or my kid, and I'd rather be here for my kid. And that's what I chose. I said, I'm a mom. I don't care. I'm not a business owner at this point. I'm a mom owner. like it's all about the kids. I don't care. And so I did sell it to the landowner, and he didn't pay me everything. He ended up cheating me, trying to take me through court, and alleged all kinds of shit, and barely paid me what he owed me. And I just decided to wash my hands of it all and focus on my kids. And who my son at the time was 8, having his own problems, just now being diagnosed with Asperger's at the time. And because that's around the age that they start noticing like behavior problems, is around 8 years old. And then my daughter had this. We talk about it in the book. The chapter's called Blue Baby, because that's what they used to call these children with tetralogy of Fallot. They used to call them blue babies. And so that's what I call the chapter. And I talk about her surgery and them meeting another couple at the same time that their child was going through the same thing, with a different outcome than ours. And so it's a very touching story. And it talks about like what it feels like to have your child ripped from your arms when they're taking her to surgery. It's just sad just thinking of it, what the feeling we had at that moment. It was like they could not pull her from our kung fu grip. It was crazy. But
just for my son, tongue ties procedure, which is like a 5-minute thing, I was like, no.
Yes.
And to know his heart is being worked on, that's so
open heart. We're talking like ripped open. She has a huge scar from here all the way down still. And she has these pinched areas on her stomach where the feeding tubes were. Still to this day, it's like a scars. And she is a child that will have another heart surgery within the next couple of years. She's going to have another one. She'll have one every time she outgrows her aorta, because they reconstruct it. Although they just told me they can do a heart transplant where they reconstruct the aorta with a pig's heart, and she will never have to have another one again. So if that's the case, then I might be okay with that. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm okay with, or it could be a human. It might even be a human one. I don't really know, but it's going to be something where they do a transplant, and then she may not need another surgery. And I might think that might be better, because I don't want to have her surgeries even at 65. You know what I mean? It's dangerous. And I don't like it.
No, that's really cool. That's
my poor daughter. This doesn't even end her story. So at 2, I knew she wasn't reaching her. I have a child development degree because when I did a preschool, I wanted to get a degree in it. So I have an AA in child development, and I always taught preschool growing up. And so I had to do my very first classes in college. While I was running cross country for the college, I was also taking early childhood education courses so that I could teach. Anyways, I knew that she was not meeting her milestones. I had been around enough children to know that she was not meeting them. And I kept going to the doctor, and he's like, "Don't worry, her heart surgery, all that stuff, she'll just gain momentum. Give her time." Finally, at 2, my mom came with me arm in arm into the Kaiser, and she said, "We are demanding that you give her an MRI to find out if there's something going on." And he's like, "Okay, we'll do it." And so he said, "Okay, we'll do it." And so she had an MRI, and the MRI came out and said that she has cerebral palsy, that she's microcephalic, and that hypotonic or something. That's the words that was in it that I can remember. And so with that diagnosis, we went to a neurologist, and they said, "Well, there's nothing we can do. This is just the diagnosis, and there's things you can do to help her. She won't get worse. She just is what she's got, basically. Like there's no treatment for her. There's nothing you can do. And you won't know how it's going to manifest until she gets older or whatnot." Well, what happened with my daughter was she has what's called AFRID. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not. What is that?
Okay. AFRID. Now, I'm self-diagnosed her because no actual doctor said so, but many have said, yeah, that's what she has, but it's never really been on paper because they don't really diagnose it really. But it's called avoidance food restrictive intake disorder. AFRID. AFRID.
Kids. I've worked with kids who had that.
Yes.
Didn't know what it was called.
AFRID. I actually saw on Real Housewives of Orange County, Emily, she's the attorney one. Her child has it. And it was the first time I've ever heard anybody say it. I'm like, that's what my daughter has all this whole time. And I knew it. And I would tell doctors, and I'm like, now I'm hearing it that somebody else has it. And for the first time, I heard somebody else had it. And I was like, it's so true. This is what my daughter has. But her kid would eat things. My daughter, she will only eat things that are creamy, nothing that has texture. So, she'll only have pudding, creamy mashed potatoes, soup, ice cream, yogurt, and protein shakes. That's it.
Oh wow.
Not a cookie, not a French fry, not a nothing, not a chicken nugget, nothing. And so she won't eat it, and she barely will. She might sometimes will chew gum, but only for a couple minutes. She doesn't eat candy. She won't drink sodas, which is great. Don't get me wrong.
Right. But
There's a little upside to some of that. But so with that though, she has to work pull-ups and stuff because the number 2 comes out kind of the way it is. And so she's 16 and she's still wearing her. So there's that. And then her speeches, she leaves off the beginning and the end of a word. So you really can't understand what she's saying. So it's really hard. Communication is really difficult. And I used to know what she was talking about, but now her vocabulary is so vast. It's like, I don't know what she's saying half the time. So it's hard to communicate with her. But she's like any other teenager. She acts like any other teen. But so there's that. And then she wears glasses and she needs braces, but she has such anxiety about everything. And in fact, I'm surprised if she thinks I'm talking to a doctor, she'll come in and go, "Who are you talking to?" And I'm like, "Nobody. It's not about me." And I'm like, "No." But she has anxiety about everything that's said or done. And she can't, there's just a lot of things that she can't do. She's afraid of pretty much everything. And so trying to get her to go to a doctor or get an MRI or do anything, it's kind of like you have to sedate her basically a lot of times. With all that, her heart doctor said, "Are you sure she's not have autism?" And I was like, "Well, I think she does, but a lot of people are telling me no." And she's like, "I don't know, Jessica. And all my professional years, I'm telling you right now, I think your daughter has autism. And so let's get her chromosomes checked just to be careful." And I go, "Well, yeah, I had her chromosomes checked when she was a baby, and they said everything was all clear." She goes, "Well, science has changed, and things are different." And so we had her chromosomes checked, and we found out that she was positive for, it's called 16p.11.2. 16p.11.2. And they said she has a mosaic of it, meaning a little bit here, a little bit there. It's like a smattering of it. And so it's not the full picture. It's just a little bit of everything. And what people, it's an intellectual disability. And with that comes 90% of the people that have it have autism. And so we had her checked with a doctor, and he says, "Oh yeah, she's autism level 1 is what they gave her." And then she has this intellectual disability. Had we known, we just found this out last year, so she was 15. Had we known all this whole time, we might have been able to do something different. She has had IEPs and accommodations, and she's got through school pretty good. She's in class not in a normal class. She's in a special education class, and she won't graduate with a diploma. She'll graduate with a certificate of completion, but they're teaching her life skills and things like that. And it's important. And she's getting lots of social interaction, which is important. And she gets to feel like she's in high school and all that, which is great. So, do I ever say, does anything of this? I thought for the longest time that the cerebral palsy was because of the surgery or the birth, that they tortured my poor baby to come out, and they deprived her of oxygen. And that's why she had cerebral palsy all these years. Come to find out, she has a chromosomal disorder, and probably everything that has been masking itself as cerebral palsy or any of these other things maybe were caused by this chromosomal disorder. Although the MRI did say what it
No,
said. So
to check the chromosomes. I'm really curious because obviously it sounds like you had some doctors who recommended it and who said to do that. But like that's an incredibly specific test.
yeah, because she said, "Have you ever had her chromosomes checked?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, but that was like 15 years ago, and science has changed, and so you might want to have her retested for just any kind of abnormal and open up the testing for anything." And
Mm.
so maybe they only tested her for certain things, and they didn't because it's Kaiser. They don't. Maybe they didn't open up the test to all things, and this time they did, and they landed on something. Winner, winner. But but it does help her with this for when she moves on in life. And we tried to get her Social Security when she was 2, when the diagnosis first came out when she was 2.5. And I called the S for SSI, and I called and I tell them about like what the diagnosis was, and they asked me all kinds of questions: how much you make, what kind of car you drive, all kinds of stuff. And when they got to a certain point, she laughed and hung up the phone. And I got a denial letter 2 weeks later that says, "You make too much money." Denied. And my daughter has had diapers her whole life. She has had to be on Pediasure most until now. She can have on more adult protein shakes.
$120 a month just on the diaper.
Yeah, a lot more than that though, because she goes through them quickly, like every toilet change. Every time she has to go to the bathroom, she changes it. So that's like 4 or 5 times a day. So, and their pull-ups are way more expensive. The extra large size and or Depends and all that stuff is just way more expensive. And then Pediasure, well, it used to be Pediasure. Now it's like protein shake things, and they're like $42 for like a tiny little case with 12 of them in there, and it's very costly. And of course I'm going to pay and do whatever it takes. She eats pudding, a lot of pudding. She loves pudding, and she'll eat, believe it or not, peanut butter. She loves peanut butter, but she's so specific on the few things that she'll eat. She won't eat anything else. It's just insane. It's insane. Yeah. And so her anxiety with that and all the other things, it's just like, ah. But her birthing story was, it just sparked the beginning of like a life, 16 years worth of just stuff. And it's just been ongoing ever since. And you don't know how to navigate through it. So you just have to do it one day at a time, and you learn as you go, and you fall down a little bit here and there, and you skip appointments by accident, and you have to reschedule and do things and all the stuff that was involved. And then you just come out on the other end and you're like, "Oh, remember all that? That was so hard. But look, we're here. We're happy." And you just find a way. Just like when you give birth, you're like, "This is gonna hurt, this is gonna hurt." And then you look back, you're like, "I cannot wait to have another one."
Yeah, within like minutes, you're just like,
Yeah.
I could do that. Like,
That was so
well,
easy.
not minutes in your second child's case. I am curious, were you ever able to, or did you even think to pursue anything as far as like what the doctor did to you was malpractice?
I
On
know.
so many.
I did talk to somebody, and they did do some but what the attorney said was that if she has cerebral palsy, it may not be from her birth. It could have been from her surgery, her heart surgery. And they played it off like we won't be able to prove if it was her heart surgery or if it was her birth.
I don't think it matters that she had cerebral palsy. It's the fact that he practically
Traumatized both of us.
he threw his
Right.
at you, not to
I
mention
know.
fingernail marks on her head. All of those
I
things
know.
doesn't matter that the cerebral palsy came from anywhere else. What
Isn't
they
that crazy? I could probably send you pictures of her head. You won't believe it. It was so gross. Like they are huge, so big and purple that can't miss it. And her head, the hematoma, and it was so deep red. It looked so deep red. And the bloody fingernail marks all over the top of her head, like the lady was poking at her or something. It
And
was
no,
torture. They didn't. They said that that's like I can't prove any of that. It's not on video. It's like I can't. Give them a bad Yelp review. They just didn't. They just didn't make it seem like a positive outcome for the whole thing. And I didn't want to go through anything that's litigious for. How am I supposed to prove it? I don't know. I thought that they were SOBs, and I would tell people don't go there and have a baby. That's for sure. Like
now I know a birth attorney because of my last podcast episode. So I'm like, dang, you should have called her.
is it
But
too late?
I don't know, maybe not. That's egregious. I truly have
Yeah.
never. I have seen, honestly, a part of my story is a story that I can't completely share yet because it's not mine. But I became a doula because of what I watched happen to a friend. And it was malpractice, absolutely. But nothing on the level of what you just described.
It's in my book, people. I wrote it in the book. It's all
That
true.
unsafe. And I'm so sorry that you went through that. And I'm
I know.
like also so impressed at how you've handled yourself and you never let that. Some women let a traumatic birth kind of end their life as they know it. They just kind of
Yeah.
broken mom. And I don't say that harshly. I've dealt with postpartum depression and anxiety. I would never ever come at a mom. Like my house was gross for a couple of years because
Well, let me just say, I can just tell you this. Okay, so when you have a child that's in the NIC unit, both my kids when they were in the NIC unit, my husband woke up in the room with the very first night. He stayed the very first night in both times. And I was in the shower blubbering, crying, and he's like, he thought it was the lady next door crying because of her baby or something, and it was me, just hysterically crying like so loud. And then when I came out, he goes, "Was that you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just needed a good cry." Like I just needed freaking good cry. My kids are both in the NIC unit at the time. It was one kid is at the NIC unit. The next one, I just needed a good cry. And every day it was like, I don't know if my daughter's going to be okay. And so it became, I was fighting for her. And it was less about me and all about every day. It was like keeping her alive. It was like my mission. And I was breastfeeding her, but then on her surgery day, for some reason, I just dried up. I'm like, I don't have any left. For whatever reason, I wasn't pumping or I was too busy and I wasn't paying attention. And one day it was like I couldn't really get her any. So I switched her right between in the middle of right after her surgery to like when she was in the hospital. I'm like, okay, just start giving her formula. Here's some of my milk left, and then here's the formula. And after that, I was depressed a little bit and I wasn't breastfeeding her. So at the time I got on, and it was the big thing to do was Zoloft, and it helped me. And I got on Ambien for sleep because I needed some sleep. And I was feeling better. And I got off after a few months. It only needed a few months to kind of get myself feeling right. And I felt better. And my husband said, "Man, you seem better." And he didn't know at the time I was taking Zoloft. When I told him, he goes, "Is that what that was?" "You seem so much better." And I'm like, "Yeah, I feel better, a lot better."
pile, like whatever. Oh my gosh.
He's like, "You're so nice." Like, whatever. But yeah, there just comes at first it was mommy mode. I'm in protection mode. I gotta keep her alive and survive. And after her surgery and everything, then I was kind of like falling apart inside and I didn't feel good. And so I sought out a doctor. I'm like, "I want you to make me feel better." And after I started feeling better, then things started to change and stuff. So because I was a little depressed, I just gave up my business. My daughter was having all the things, and how it goes. Don't be afraid to like tell a doctor and say, "Give me something, make me feel good." And then when you don't need it, get off of it. Don't make it a lifelong thing if you can.
Mm-hmm.
That's my
That's
advice.
no, that's really valid, and I definitely I'll admit I'm on the crunchy side, so I avoid pills of all kinds. I'm a little bit partly because I've had so many negative experiences where things doctors weren't really honest with what things we're actually doing, and so I'd be like,
Yeah.
"There's all these side effects that you didn't tell me about," or like my
Right.
family logically suffered because of things. So, but you're totally right in the sense that there's a time and a place, and you just went through hell and
Right.
that got you through hell. I don't think
Right.
there's anything wrong with that. I think that
And
you
then
did what you had to do.
I still was dealing with the bio mom because now that I've had a baby, she's jealous, like because I've had a kid. And so it was like I was dealing with bio mom. I was still being a stepmother, my son was down diagnosed with that. And I was being called to the principal's office for him all the time. And he was a straight A student, but he just didn't get along with anybody. And because Asperger's, they kind of are concrete thinkers. They don't think outside the box. They don't care about anybody else but themselves. And he just is a very bright kid with no social skills. And so we were putting him in social skill classes and all kinds, trying to be a mom for all three different children with all three different needs and still be there for an infant that was not meeting her milestones. But I was loving being a mom. I still love being a mom, and they're still at home, except for my 33-year-old. She's out and about. But the other two, I feel like Piper will probably live with me forever. And my son knows that he's going to be taking care of Piper in the event that we're gone. So he gets the house. He gets the house if he takes care of her. So that's what we care about. It's really hard to think because I'm older in age and my husband's 62 and I'm 50. I'll be 53 in September. And it's hard thinking that I might not be around in 10, 15 years. Who knows what happened? Hopefully my grandma lived till she was like 99. So but hopefully I'll be around, but you never know. And I don't want to be a burden on my kids that need help as it is. So now I'm at that point in my life where I'm thinking about their needs and it's the end of the road for me. No, want. I'm sorry. It's not the end of the road, but it's starting to feel that way. And it's trying to make preparations for what that's going to look like. Anybody out there that has special need kids, you know what that feels like. So yeah, my book, Bucket List from a Redneck Girl, is available anywhere. Okay, Amazon, anywhere you can buy a book actually, but Amazon is like the best place to go get it. I'm actually going to self-publish because I did get published through Christian Faith Publishing, but I'm going to self-publish in this next month. So then I will be able to, you still can get it on Amazon, but it also will probably be on TikTok because I might sell it on TikTok. My TikTok following is growing. I've got like 18,000 followers now, finally. It's getting there. It's taking a little bit of time, but I've only been on it a year. But come follow me. I have a website, jesssayin.net. That's JESSSAYING.net. And from there, you'll learn a little bit about my podcast, my book, and then all my social media links are there. And you can just find me that way, and it'll be easy peasy.
Yeah, all of those will be included at the bottom of this episode, just for anyone who's listening and you want to hear more of Jessica's story or buy the book, do all the things. All of that will be available.
Yeah, it's an easy read. I said you can. I always say that you can read it as you sitting at the soccer game or ballet or whatever. You're waiting for the bus or the airplane. It's an easy read. It's funny. There's a lot of good stories in there. We didn't even touch the surface of half of them. I've had a high school shooting, one of the first high school shootings in America. We have, I've had my car exploded. I almost didn't make it out alive. It's crazy, but it's true. I got lost, made my way to Utah, got lost, made it to Idaho without any gas, and I landed right on the corner of where I was supposed to because I truly believe God gets you places where you're supposed to be. And I was a lost little lamb, and he put me where I needed to be, and I was found, and I made it home safe. I was only 17. It was a crazy story, but it's all true. I had a Jerry Springer wedding. I had a crazy. It's bio mom never let us. She was like my arch nemesis of the book, and I did call her that too many times. But she just wouldn't. She never let off the gas on us. It was constant trouble. But all through it all, I met my husband. I was teased when I was little. I was called Popeye. I didn't feel good about myself, and I couldn't believe that this guy liked me. I'm like, oh my God, he likes the Popeye girl. And so it was kind of a love story, and we're still hanging in there 29 years later, and 3 kids later, 29 years. And there's when it comes to marriage, you just got to compromise and become the best friends. If you're best friends, you'll last forever. Just a little bit of advice.
That's a whole thing we could have talked about too. Maybe episode 2 someday. We is marriage birth.
Yeah.
Like I get through that. Oh yeah, I have another podcast that you're such a gifted storyteller. First off, I love. This has been so fun. I feel like I'm chatting with a friend, even though we just met. And those are my favorite episodes.
I told you these stories were crazy. I told you the 2 stories I had were totally different and totally crazy, but they are totally true. And that's what happened to me. It's my truth, I swear.
And it's how you handled it. And like I think that's what makes you such an amazing person is you've gone through it all and you overcame it all and you're still smiling and laughing about it. You're not you're going, my life is so horrible. Like, you're just like, look at that. This happened, and here we are. Here's how we handled it. Let's go.
You know what? If life gets you down, and I've had a lot of ups and downs, and I've found adulting difficult, and you'll read it in my book. I made piss poor decisions, but when you're really down on that roller coaster and you're at the very bottom, you need to pull up your big girl panties and dig in deep and work hard. If you work hard every day and you continue to work hard, you'll have, and this is a chapter name in my book, domination by determination. If you're determined to do and get and have, you will do and get and have the things that you desire if you work hard at it. Don't be a puss, okay? Get up, start moving, okay? Get up and do. That's all I have to say. That's my
Love
advice.
Hardcore American woman. Love it.
Just saying. Just saying. Jesus. Which is the name of my podcast, Jess Sayin with Jessica Donnell. Come find me.
It fits. It totally fits. I love it.
That's funny.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I like I said, we could just chat. Like, I feel like if we were at a coffee shop, we'd be in trouble because like poor baristas would be like, "Are these two ladies ever gonna leave?" Like,
I'm like, I want another. I like caffeine.
Right. I'm a matcha girly personally. I am that crunchy girl. Like, people are like, grass drinker. I'm like, nah, it tastes amazing. So
kale and pineapple together, those two taste really good.
Those are good. Honestly, kale smoothies got me through one of my pregnancies. Like, I don't even know why, because I'm not a huge kale drinker or like juicer. But pregnancy, that's all I could drink was kale and ginger.
When I got pregnant, I tried one thing that I never would try ever, and I didn't like them ever, is wings. I don't eat wings. I don't even like them to this day. When I was pregnant, oh my God, I had to have wings. I'm like, oh my God, give them to me. And like that, I needed wings. I don't know what it was.
The dark meat. It's better. Yeah.
So crazy.
Wild.
Nuts. So. Pregnancy brain, it's a thing, dude. It's really a thing. You know, one more thing. What I did when I was pregnant, I would go to have a bowl of cereal. And I don't know, maybe some people do this, but not me. I always pour the cereal first and then the milk. When I was pregnant, for whatever reason, I would forget and I'd pour the milk and it would slosh out. And I was like, what did I just do? Like, oh my God, the cereal goes first. And when I was pregnant, I couldn't think straight. And I was just pouring the milk and I was like, and I did it like all the time. I was like, what am I doing? It's pregnancy brain.
Better your cereal than your keys. Just ask my husband.
True. So true. Anyways, I hope you like the stories. They're just different. They're my stories, and
they've been a joy. And for all of my brave listeners and my brave moms out there, like, this is what bravery looks like. And that's exactly why it's Bravely Delivered. Is you can go through a traumatic experience and you can come out on the other side a whole and healed woman over time. And like, I know for you, Jessica, your kids are older now, but you still remember all these details so vividly, and you've had that time to process. So also, the only thing I want to say for my new moms listening to this is it takes time, but if you take the time to heal, you will. And Jessica is a beautiful example of this.
Thank you. And write your story down. You know what? Your kids are going to want to hear it, and you're going to want to remember it. And write it down, and it might help other people down the road. It might, you know what it is too? My book at the very end, the last chapter, it healed me in a lot of ways. And a lot of things I was holding on to as a child. And I was telling this when we were in between, I said my book, that the back chapter says, Marsha, if you understand what that means, then you'll understand this book. Because I was holding on to a lot of middle child syndrome things, and I had a hard time growing up, and I let that all go. After you write things down, you'll find a different perspective about your whole entire life. And after you let things go, the weight is lifted and you feel so much better inside. And trust me, write your story down. Even if it's just something now and down the road, you're like, well, I got more living to do. Go live your life, but keep that in mind. Write your story down. It's very effective in healing sores and open wounds that you've left open your whole life.
So good. So true. Yes. Thank you for sharing, Jessica. You have a blessed week, and just keep sharing that story. Thank you for being on here. We definitely hope to see you again, either here on Bravely Delivered or over at Nahal, where we have our fireside chats. And to all of my listeners, be blessed.
Thank you.